We have one more media corner entry, and this is a combined thing because when Nick and Sarah came out to visit last weekend, we all went to the theaters to see the new Ryan Reynolds movie. If stands for Imaginary Friend,
Yes.
and we're gonna do a combined review
Yeah.
on this one. So first, like initial thoughts. It seemed like we all genuinely enjoyed the movie overall.
Yes.
For yeah, like we were all more or less on the same page there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I I thought this movie was beautiful, and the way it handled things was really well put together. And Ryan Reynolds rarely disappoints for me too. He's always funny.
Yes.
Honestly, tiptoeing around spoilers as much as I can here, the only thing that really stood out to me at any given moment in the movie was, in particularly Bobby Moynihan's scene.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they handled the reconnection with your childhood in the way that they did, almost as if like a positive voice in your head type metaphor. So I kind of wish that they would have left that ambiguous and not revealed what they did at the end. And I know it's probably better for people who prefer closure and want those answers, but I like doing some of the work myself in movies, and I wish they kind of would have left that metaphorical and not like doubled down on it so hard in that very last scene before the credits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They basically confirmed something at the end that I didn't want them to confirm. I wanted them to leave it ambiguous, but that's just me personally. I don't know how you guys feel about that. Um, yourselves.
Yeah, so for me, I I think I went into it expecting it to be like a different kind of movie. I was When I initially saw the trailer, it the tone that it gave wasn't the tone that the movie ended up being. Not that that's a bad thing. I I think when I was going into it, I was expecting something a little more kind of upbeat, kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe like Monsters Inc. type humor, humor
Yeah,
type.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I could see that.
you know, something along in those veins, just because
Mm-hmm.
imaginary friends. So that
Yeah.
was where my brain was when I first. So it had to take a real sudden shift. But after I was like, okay, this is what this is about. After that, I was like, okay, no, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. I too have yet to find fault in Ryan Reynolds stuff, and then also huge Office fan, so I enjoy things done by John Krasinski as well. Um,
Right.
Yes. Good old Jim
but
Halpert.
good old Jim Halpert, yes.
Yeah, he
Um,
was really good in this movie, John Krasinski. I would even go out on a limb and say, out of everyone in the movie, including Ryan Reynolds, I think John Krasinski gave the best performance out
Yes.
of everyone.
yes.
I would have to agree with that.
There wasn't a time that he was on screen that I didn't get like kind of emotional and choked up just because of the. He's definitely his character is the tears of a clown cliche, and it was handled very well, I think.
See, because Steve Carell was one of the voices of one of the imaginary friends, I was kind of hoping that because John Krasinski and Steve Carell they were famously worked together on The Office. I was kind of hoping the Office fan in me was kind of hoping that they would kind of make some sort of a reference to the show, but they never did.
Right. Much like you, Sarah, I too was expecting, Monsters Inc., and instead I got Inside Out, but I think that actually works in the movie's favor for me. Like, that
Yes.
ended up, it came out better than I was expecting as a result, I think.
Yes,
Um,
yes. Is saying I say, and I know for a lot of the movie, not giving spoiler, I will say one of the characters, one of the imaginary friends, I misidentified who I thought that identify. I did. Wow, there it was my turn to mess up.
Words are
That
hard.
imaginary friends.
Right, right, right.
Yeah, I misidentified
Yeah.
who that imaginary friend was. Um, that was an interesting twist for me, getting to
Yeah, that
finding
was.
out who that one belonged to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there was yeah, again, like obvious this is new, so I don't want to give anything away, but I will say the at first I wasn't thinking it, but about halfway through the movie, just based on context clues and foreshadowing I picked up on, the true nature of one of the characters started to stand out to me, and when it's revealed later, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I saw that coming.
See, it was a surprise to me.
I'd say that was the one that I misidentified as belonging to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
not who they belong to, but what they are in the first place was something that I predicted probably around the time that they were doing the uh, Extreme Makeover Imagination Land Edition scene.
Okay.
They dropped a pretty heavy clue in the dialogue right before that starts about how they used to be a clown. And that just after that I started paying attention.
Okay.
To that, yeah. And then I picked up on it, and then when it made sense, but also you have to consider when you look back on it, did either of you notice that that particular character was never actually acknowledged by anyone in the real world except for the girl?
No, now that I think about it, now that you say that, yeah, no, I did notice that.
Yeah, I thought about that too, and that's kind of where it started to piece it together for me. I was like, oh, wait a minute, I bet you, okay, let's see. And then, yup, I was very happy about that one.
Mm-hmm.
But doubling back a little bit, I am what I was asking earlier, how do you guys feel about what I was saying specifically earlier about, do you like that I guess I'll ask it this way, do you like that they confirmed what they confirmed at the end, or do you also prefer they would have left it up in the air so you draw your own picture?
I like that they confirmed it.
I tend to be a closure person, so I do like that they confirmed it. But I do see the appeal otherwise still. I know for myself personally.
I was gonna use that same verbiage. Yeah, I'm a closure person, so yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so the ending of Inception drove you nuts, huh?
Yes.
And
meanwhile, I thought it was genius.
Admittedly, I have not. I think I've seen part of Inception. I tend to fall asleep if I don't find. I like Nick can fall asleep very easily during movies.
Christopher Nolan movies are an investment. They're very dialogue heavy and drawn out, and there's a lot of build up for their payoff. But he's an acquired taste, much like Quentin Tarantino.
Yes, Quentin Tarantino.
But yeah, this movie director I'll never watch.
Too much blood.
Yeah, he's quite violent. But yeah, this movie, definitely loved it overall, and I like a lot what they're doing. It was very cute, very emotional in a lot of places, and I like the design. I think my favorite is probably Blossom, just because I like that old school Rubber Limbs cartoon, Bendy and the Ink Machine style design.
Yeah, I was gonna say it reminded me a lot of
classic Disney,
Betty Boop, or classic Disney, or like you said, Bendy and the Ink Machine.
Yeah, the old black and white cartoons. I like that design. There was a lot of ifs in this movie. Did you all have a favorite?
I had my favorite was Blue.
Okay. the Grimace knockoff.
Yes. the Steve Carell voiced character. Yes.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but his character kind of grated on my nerves after a while. He was a bit extra.
Speaking of Blue, they
He's for the kids though. That's a character for the kids.
yeah.
That's
Speaking
also a
of Blue,
Steve
though,
Carell thing. He
that is
Yeah.
a very Steve Carell thing, and I think that's why I gravitated towards that because I understood the humor behind it.
Yeah, very dinner for schmucks vibes
Yes,
there.
yes. But speaking of Blue, they have Blue as an option at Build-A-Bear Workshop right now.
Makes sense. Did you have a favorite if, Sarah?
I
in
did.
that?
So I really liked Blossom. Yes, because the old timey, but I thought she was adorable. I mean, all things cute and girly. And so there's
And
that for me.
when you find out whose if she is, it makes a lot of sense why she's designed that way.
Oh, yeah.
It really, really does. But I'm not going to lie. Is it Kevin?
Oh,
Calvin?
the invisible one?
The
The
invisible
invisible
one
one?
that
Yeah.
yes, that everybody tripped over because he's invisible. Like it just for the movie being more Inside Out than Monsters Inc. He was the perfect, like he was the comedic relief that was needed.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to say this because I heard Ryan and Spencer talking about it on Fortress of Nerditude.
Uh-huh.
Spencer was talking about that was potentially like a reference to like a Deadpool reference, and that might continue on in Deadpool and Wolverine.
Ryan Reynolds is very self-referential in the Deadpool movies, so there is a very strong chance he breaks the fourth wall on that kind of stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would be.
Yeah.
I would. It would make me smile to see something like that in Deadpool and Wolverine.
He was
Just
also very self-referential in fourth wall breaking in Free Guy, as
he
well.
sure the fuck was.
Yes, he was.
So, um, yeah, yeah, he's great. I love it. I love everything.
As I mean, considering he's one of my favorite actors, I had to see. This was a must.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
it's definitely a very enjoyable experience overall.
Absolutely.
and I will say it was fitting to find out who that if belonged to as well, because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was made very clear.
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, that's one of the
Like,
honestly
oh hey, how do you
probably one of
know
the
that
most
one?
important aspects. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Basically, a movie about finding homes for forgotten imaginary friends at its core, but deep down, it's way more than that, and
Yeah,
deals with
no.
a lot of themes about change and growing up and a lot of the extra stress and mental health issues that come with adulthood, and how sometimes you have to let that child voice come back in to bring you, and a moment of peace. How like
I would say to literally
basically,
bring the light back.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's basically a metaphor for how, when you're a kid and you have the imaginary friend that you grow up and you lose that, but like there's always like that voice in the back of your head, your conscience. Kids have a wide imagination, so their imaginary friend, if it's, granted it's not a demon, is usually their interpretation of their conscience, or that voice in their head that we all have. And um as you get older and you lose some of that imagination,
Mhm.
it becomes something else, but it's never truly gone. And the way that they handle that as a metaphor, I
Yeah.
think, is really well done.
Mhm.
I'll say my daughter hasn't really like I haven't noticed her like talking to any like somebody that's invisible, but she does have a favorite stuffed animal. It's a Thai beanie baby by the name of Bonsai. It's a chimpanzee, but she calls him Monk Monk. And
Oh
it is
yeah.
her absolute favorite. I yeah, and she loves it. I gave it to her when she was little.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, rating for this movie, I give it a 9 out of 10.
Gonna go a little bit higher than that and go a 9.5.
Okay?
Let's see, and I was torn a little bit between 8.5 and 9, and the only reason why I would lean 8.5 is selfishly because of my expectations of Monsters Inc. and getting Inside Out. But
Okay.
it would truly it would be, yeah, in that range in there, like very solid movie. And I think going to watch it again, I'm sure that now that I know what to expect,
I
I
full
could go into it with the proper mindset to be able to see, and it would probably be closer to a 9. Yeah.
Yeah, I fully plan on buying this digitally and watching it with my daughter. For sure. This is definitely one that I want to watch with her.
Yeah, and also Ryan Reynolds being kind of one of those like crotchety I've lost all hope characters in this movie definitely gave me like they do that a lot in those family comedies where there's always a crotchety character who gets over themselves by the end and is happy again. But in the beginning, with his like reclusiveness and crotchetiness, he definitely gave me Count Olaf vibes, like hiding in the
Yeah.
attic and shit.
Okay. Yeah.
And
I could
his
say that. I could see
he's
that.
like, you a child, gross, go away, kind of vibes. So, um, I uh. I do have to say that was the one thing that bothered me was early in the movie that I had to point out was like not only like they must have shit peripheral vision because not only did they not notice her following her when she was decidedly not following them when she was decidedly not stealthy, but also why is this 12-year-old girl walking around New York City at that time of night? It's kind of by herself.
Right.
That really stood out to me because I know this is a family movie, but in reality, that's a dangerous place to be walking around by yourself at night.
Uh-huh.
Right,
So,
or the entirely unrealistic aspect of walking around in New York at any time of day or night and having there be no other people on the street anywhere aside from the one creepy thing that you're following.
or
Yeah.
hardly any people. Yeah.
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 That's it. I also had to wonder though, since these creatures exist, but people just can't see them unless they believe in them or whatever, like Santa Claus or whatever. But they do physically exist in the space. How has no one accidentally run into them? Or maybe they have and they thought it was a ghost and shit themselves. I don't know, but like especially Blue, who's decidedly not stealthy.
No,
and,
not by any means.
Yeah, and takes up quite a lot. Like, he was walking around in public with them when there was people on the street.
That sneeze,
Uh,
though.
Right.
It got me every fucking time. Every time he sneezed, I laughed so hard.
Right, I was gonna say, like when you're allergic to air, my goodness. Yeah, there's
Yeah. Yeah, I think they were going for, like...
and it was that
that's-
over-exaggerated Steve Carell comedic sneeze.
Yup. Yeah, he's definitely he's the Jar Jar Binks of this movie. He's for the
Yes.
kids.
Yeah.
But every family movie has one of them.
Mhm.
There's always one. There's always one. Character that the kids love and the adults hate. It's like...
I mean, yeah. Gotta follow the family movie formula.
That was probably like Olaf in Frozen, except I actually liked him.
I liked Olaf
Right.
too. He was cute.
But okay, yeah. I'm glad we all really enjoyed that.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
you have to have some suspension of disbelief when you're going into a movie about imaginary friends, but it's sometimes it's fun to nitpick a little bit.
Yeah.